Shriman Venkatanacharya Kavitarkika Kesari Vedantacharya Varyome Sannidhattam Sadakriti Ramanujadaya Patram Jnana Vairagya Bhushanam Srimad Venkatanacharyam Vande Vedantadeshikam. The first verse of Padukasahasram. Santas Sriranga Prithvija Charanatrana Shekharaha Jayanti Bhavanatrana Padapankajarenavaha. The first verse of Prabhava Paddhati. Vande Tadranganathasya Manyam Padukayor Yugam Unnatanam Avanatirnatanam Yatra Chonnatihi. So we will go to the next verse. So we saw verse number 67 last session. Therefore, we continue with the 68. So Abhyasa Yogena Nigrihyamanayir Antarmukhair Manobhihi Matastvaya Guptapadam Prabhavat Anveshayantyāgamikam Nidhanam. So let us understand. So Vedantadeshika, the author of the Sri Padukasahasram, addresses the divine sandals as mother. In the second half, Uttarardham, He Mataha, O mother. And we have been seeing that Paduka is used in the feminine gender, and naturally, so he addresses her as mother. Mataha. Now, there are people who can understand Lord. They are called Atmavidaha. So, what do they do? So, Atmavidaha, in the first line, let me also split the Sandhi and read. Abhyasa Yogena Nigrihyamanaihi Antaha Mukhaihi Antarmukhaihi Atmavidaha Manobhihi Mataha Tvaya Gupta Padam Prabhavat Anveshayanti Agamikam Nidhanam. So what do they do? The people who have got self-restraint and also who have understood clearly the Brahma Vidya. So we saw that the divine sandals are themselves Brahma Vidya. And therefore, so the wisdom of understanding Brahman, the Almighty, rests on the sandals, our devotion to the sandals. So Atmavidaha, those who have understood the Lord, omniscient, omnipotent and omnipresent. So what do they do? So Abhyasa Yogen, with their practice, Yoga meditation, Abhyasa practice. So Abhyasa Yogena, by the practice of meditation, Antarmukhaihi Manobhihi Nigrihyamanaihi. They always control by their mind, by directing the mind inwards. So that means they do introspection. Not only do introspection, they understand that the inner soul, Antaryami, is Lord Ranganatha. And therefore, so their minds are looking into the inner soul. So Nigrihyamanaihi, with some controls. So what happens is the word which is hidden, Gupta Padam, meaning it's a secret word. So what is the secret word? So Nidhanam, that is the important concept. Nidhanam is important concept here. So where is the concept available? Agamikam, it is available in the scriptures. So Anveshayanti, they still search for the Paduka, the Gupta Padam in the scriptures. So that will give them the impetus to understand Lord Brahman. So they know about themselves. They know clearly about the individual souls, and they anmeshayanti. They search for how, because it is very difficult to understand the Lord without the divine sandals, and therefore Prabhavat, by the greatness. So we saw already some aspects of greatness of the divine sandals. So Tvaya Gupta Padam Prabhavat, the secret word has been hidden from their view by you. That will be what we call the clue to understand Lord Almighty. So, Gupta Padam Prabhavat Anmeshayanti Agamikam Nidhanam. Nidhanam also can mean pramanam, authority. So they look into the authority of the scriptures to find out where Paduka has been mentioned as a secret word, as a hidden word. So by lot of practice, by meditation, the people who know Brahman look into their inner soul and search for the Paduka, the divine sandals, where it is mentioned. We go to the next one, 69. Murdhna dadhanam. So let me read again the verse 68. So abhyasa yogena nigrihyamanaihi antarmukairatma vido manobhihi matastvaya guptapadam prabhavat anmeshayantyaagamikam nidhanam. The next one, 69. Murdhna dadhanam Manipaduke tvam uttam sitam va purusham bhavatya vadanti kechit vayam amanamas tvameva sakshat adhidaivatam naha. We saw earlier a verse like this in 64. Rudram Shito Deva Ganaha. So all gods resorted to Lord Shiva. Saha Rudraha Padmasanam Shitaha. That Lord Shiva resorted to Lord Creator. Sopi, that Creator, or to Padmanabham Shitaha, he resorted to Lord Sriman-Narayana. And therefore, it is very great that Paduka never resorts to anybody else, and whereas he carries the divine feet of Lord Ranganatha. That is what we saw in 64. Now in 68, so we saw such a greatness being searched for by the people who know better than others. And now, so we see here again that Sri Vedantadeshika calls the Paduka as the presiding deity over than the divine feet of Ranganatha or Ranganatha himself. Now, people come to the temple. We people, human beings, come to the temple, and gods also, demons too. So they also visit the temple. They come and get the shatari on their head. So Murdhana Dadhanam. So by head, the Paduka is held. Paduka is carried. Paduka is honored. Hey Mani Paduke, O divine sandals, O gemmed sandals, O best sandals, O best feet, best sandals. Tvam, Murdhana Dadhanam Tvam. So you who has been honored by keeping it on the head. Purusham Bhavatya Uttam Sitam. So you find that you adorn the head of a human being. Purusham. Purusham, generally, as you know, human being. So, Bhavatya, by you, Purusham Uttamsitam. A human being is adorned. When the human beings honor the Shatari on their head, then in turn, the Paduka also honor the people who come there as devotees and beautifies their head. Uttam Sitam. Then, some people say, Kechit, in the second half, Kechit, some people say, Vadanti, they tell us. So this first half has been said by people. So anybody who wears Shatari on their head after coming into the temple is in turn honored, in the sense blessed by you, blessed by the Padukas. Thus, some people say, Kechit Vadanti. What do they say? The first line, the first half. So what do we say? What does the author say? Vayam Amanamaha. Amanamaha is a beautiful word from the word of scriptures, namely Amnaya. Amnaya meaning Veda. So when I say Amanamaha, Vayam Amanamaha, we all say, minimum 3 people. So you can take it as Nathamuni, Yamanacharya, Ramanujacharya. So these are all. So next to them is Vedantadeshika. So Vayam, at least 4 people. So 4 preceptors, Amanamaha, they make a decree. That means their words are scriptures. Their words are law. So what do they say? What do we say? Tvam eva na sakshat. You yourself, Tvam eva, you yourself, sakshat really, adhidaivatam naha, our presiding deity. The foremost deity in our heart is Paduka. That's what Vedantadeshika tries to impress upon us. So it is not a single man coming to the temple, getting the Shatari on his head, he is being adorned, but more than anybody else, Paduka is the presiding deity. Paduka is the highest deity whom is honored by the people coming into the temple. And when some people say, we accept the statement, we agree with their statement, and we make a decree also. DECREE. That is, we make a final decision that this Paduka, the divine sandals of Ranganatha, are the presiding deities for us. That means there is no one above them. Let me read again. So, Murdhana Dadhanam Manipaduke Tvam Uttamsitam Va Purusham Bhavatya Vadanti Kechit Vayamamanamas Tvameva Sakshat Adhidaivatam Naha. So we have the next verse. So this is the last verse in the Prabhava Paddhati. Now let us read. So Murdhana Satamadhasta Duparicha Vishnoh Padena Sanghatitam Adaviyasim Vimuktehe Padavim Avayanti Paduke Bhavatim. Now, so we saw the greatness so far of the divine sandals. So the greatness of the divine sandals naturally depend upon their contact with the Lord's divine feet. Now, there are 2 aspects in the first half, namely, Murdhana Satam Upari. So you read these words like this. If you want an Anvaya, I can tell you. So, can say, Janaha or bhaktaha, devotees, that is understood there. Avayanti, they know, they understand. Avayanti. So Paduke Bhavat, He Paduke, so Janaha Bhaktaha Avayanti, so Bhavatim Avayanti. Katham Bhavatim Avayanti, Vimuktehe Padavim Avayanti. So what kind of Vimukti? Adaviyasim Vimuktehe Padavim Avayanti. So Janaha Bhaktaha, He Paduke, Bhavatim Adaviyasim Vimuktehe Padavim iti Avayanti. Why? Yataha, you can add a word yataha, because Satam Murdhana Upari. By the good people, by the devotees, especially by the priests here in the temple, Murdhana on the head, Upari, on, that is over. So over the head of the good people, namely the devotees, then Adhastat Vishnoho Padena Sanghatitam. The word Bhavatim as the last word is understood to be joining with Sanghatitam in the last word in the first line, rather than the second quarter. So Sanghatitam, associated, closely connected, closely linked with Padena, by the divine feet or with the divine feet. Connected to the divine feet of Lord Vishnu. That is here Lord Ranganatha, here Lord Rama specifically. Adhastat, since Paduka, the divine sandals, are under the feet of Adhastat, down below, of the divine feet of, associated with the divine feet of the Lord, under the feet. That means, so, and also Satam Murdhana Upari. So on the heads of good people, devotees. So we understand what is the greatness of the divine sandals. In the second half, it is said, it is understood here. That means all devotees understand clearly, Avayanti. So Padavim, the status. What kind of status? Vimuktehe Padavim. So in order that all of us human beings will have moksha as the last purushartha, the fourth human goal of life. So Vimuktehe, in order to get liberated from the unending cycle of birth and death, in order to get what we call beatitude, emancipation, and so on. So Vimuktehe, it's a complete release from the troubles of this world. So Vimuktehe Padavim, so status, the post of moksha, so Bhavatim. So how is it? Adaviyasim. So it is high. So it is the highest post that the sandals occupy. Namely, it gives the highest goal. The sandals give the highest goal. Adaviyasim Vimuktehe Padavim Avayanti Paduke Bhavatim. Now, let me read it again after splitting the sandhi. Murdhana Satam Adhastat Upari Cha Vishnoho Padena Sanghatitam Adaviyasim Vimuktehe Padavim Avayanti Paduke Bhavatim. So with this, so you understand that how Vedantadeshika starts this Prabhava Paddhati. Begins in the Vande Tadranganathasya Padukayor Yugam. He said, Unnatanam Avanatihi, Natanam Cha Unnatihi. So that is the meaning here. So especially in the words which I now read, Adhastat Vishnoho Padena Sanghatitam Bhavatim Adaviyasim Vimuktehe Padavim Avayan. So when people understand that when they are humble, when they are modest, when they have vinaya, the quality called vinaya, so obedience, subservience, slavery to the Lord, to everything, then they become high, they become noble, they come to a high status. So that is what the same idea which the author began this Prabhava Paddhati is also ended with the same idea. So that is how a kavyam, mahakavyam, a great epic must be there. Even the words will be similar, and as I told you, the first verse of Padukasahasram, Santastiranga Prithvija Charanatrana Shekharaha Jayanti Bhavanatrana Padapankajare Namaha. So it starts with the word Santaha, meaning the good people, namely the priests of the temple, and ends with lastly, let me read the last verse. Jayati Etiraja Sukti Jayati Mukundasya Paduka Yugali Tadubaya Dhanas Trivedim Avandhayanto Jayanti Bhuvisantaha. The word Jayanti, so Jayanti Bhavanatrana, the second half of the first verse of Padukasahasram, Jayanti Bhavanatrana Padapankajare Namaha. The good people are victorious. So also here, Tadubaya Dhanas Trivedim Avandhayanto Jayanti Bhuvisantaha. Now, having understood the scriptures, both in Sanskrit and Tamil, that is 4,000 Divya Prabandhas of the 12 apostles of Sri Vaishnavism, Tadubaya Dhanaha, they have scholarship in both. And what do? By understanding the divine sandals, they confirm that there is no failure for the scriptural words. Scriptural words are authoritative, they are conclusive, they are the final words, and therefore they all have success. Jayanti Bhuvisantaha. So it starts with the Santaha, ends with Santaha. In the same way, Prabhava Paddhati has got the idea repeated in the first and last verse. Murdhna Sata Madhasta Vipari Cha Vishnu Padena Sanghatitam Padaviyasim Mimuktehe Padavim Avayanti Paduke Bhavati. So while concluding the Prabhava Paddhati, the third chapter, Sri Vedantadeshika gives the due respect by using the word Bhavatim. Bhavatim. So instead of previously, he has been using Tvam. So in the first half and the second half, in the last but one verse, he used Tvam. Tvam Uttam Sitam, Tvam Eva Sakshat. But here he is using Bhavatim. As we go on understanding little by little the greatness of the Paduka, the divine sandals of Sri Ranganatha of Sri Rangam, so we will have more and more respect towards the divine sandals. So let us now wind up the session, of course, earlier. So we will continue this session as soon as possible by the academic help of Sri Vyoma Linguistics Lab Foundation. Oh, let me take Radhika Vallabhada's raising hand. Yeah, please share your opinion.
Namaskaram. This word usually Veda is also referred by the word Amnaya. You mentioned the Amnaya. Right. And then in the previous verse, the word Amanama came. Amanama refers to the different acharyas, the 4 acharyas you mentioned it.
Right.
Yes, out of curiosity, I'm asking Amnaya, how Amnaya, what is the Vigrah Vakya or anything, how Amnaya refers to the Vedas? Like usually?
I have no knowledge of that. What you call the vyutpatti of amnaya, the basic splitting into Sanskrit words. From that you get the root aman.
Okay. So amanama refers to the four achari.
First person plural verb in present tense. Amanami, amanavaha, amanamaha. Vyam amanamaha, because vyam is plural in first person.
Okay. Vyam amanamaha.
Amanama. It doesn't refer to nama, name, and so on. My knowledge of verbs is very little. And I must admit that. And of course, how do we understand normally Sanskrit text? It is a what we call fact that all of us must know is Sanskrit. So-called Sanskrit scholars like me will read the English translation, then read the English Sanskrit commentary, and try to understand through Sanskrit medium these Sanskrit words. And as you said, the prose order is not available in any book of Padukasahasram, and therefore one has to build up the commentary in Sanskrit. There's no commentary in Sanskrit for Padukasahasram. We have English, Tamil, and so on.
No, your explanations are really very good, actually. You're able to appreciate each and every word. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Satyam Reddy, please.
Good evening, Prabhu. In my commentary book, it is stated Agame Bhavam, Agamikam.
Right.
This it was stated here.
Right.
Agame Bhavam,
Agame Bhavam, Agamikam. Right.
Agame Bhavam, Agamikam.
Right.
So
what is in the scripture? Agamikam Nidhanam. The authority in the scriptures. Right. Of course, I can nod my head if you say the correct form, and therefore. So initially, when I started the session today, it was, I had some technical difficulty which I was not aware of. Therefore, it was late. You have to excuse me for Shubhashree's comment. Welcome. Okay. Happy to. I think you can watch it in the YouTube video to be uploaded by vyoma-samskrta Linguistic Lab Foundation, and so Shivashankarji's aim will be fulfilled soon. And so Satyam Reddy can talk again.
I wish to know in brief for first and 1000th sloka once again from you, Prabhu.
Please repeat your statement.
I want to listen briefly on first and 1000th Sahasra sloka.
Okay. Santas Sriranga Prithvisha Charanatrana Shekhara. Santaha, good people, here it refers to the priests of the temple. Santaha, great people, good people, great people, people of good qualities, as good as Lord. Therefore, Santaha, Sriranga is the name of the place here, the Divya Kshetram. The first of the 108 Divya Kshetram, which were sung by 10 apostles of 10 Alvars of Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, the staunch devotees. Only two were not about Ranganatha, namely Madhurakavi Alvar was singing about the praise of his teacher,
Yes.
Nammalvar, and Goda, being the wife of the Almighty, as Andal. So she wrote 173 songs. Of course, she married Ranganatha, and therefore there is no question of considering that she praised. Already, of course, she did it very beautifully in her 30 Tirupavais and 143 Nachiyar Tirumozhi. And so Sriranga, Prithvi, the earth, that is the topographical place, the Bhumi, the land. So Sriranga Prithvi, Isha, so Isha Lord. So Lord of the land of Srirangam is Ranganatha, Sriranga Prithvi. Charana, foot, Trana, protection, Charana Trana Shekharaha, the foot which is protected by the Sharana foot, Trana protection. So the protection of the feet is done by the sandals. So Sriranga Prithvisha Charanatrana means Paduka. So Paduka is held by the priests in the temple on their head as soon as they enter into the temple first, and then in the morning, and then when they leave at night, they also hold the chatari on their head. So Shekharaha, so their heads are adorned. So Shekharaha means head ornament. Shikha is tuft, Shikha meaning locks of hair. So Santaha, good people, that is priests of the temple. Sriranga Prithvisa Charanatrana, the Paduka, the divine sandals, they keep them on their head. Shekharaha. The good people are adorned, beautified by the Padukas on their head. Jayanti, they are victorious. They are successful in life. Jayanti. So how? Bhuvanatrana Padapankaja Renava. So Bhuvanatrana. Bhuvana, the world, the universe, entire universe, all creations. Trana, protector. So Bhuvanatrana. So it is again Ranganatha. Sriranga Prithvisha Ranganatha, Bhuvanatrana Ranganatha. Now the sandals also, the divine sandals also happen to be the protector of the whole entire universe. So Bhavanatrana, Pada, so his divine feet, Ranganatha's divine feet, Pankaja, lotus. Lotus is a comparison. Soft, beautiful, sweet smelling, bright, cool, and so on. So Pada Pankaja, Renavaha, Renu, the dust. So the dust on the feet of Ranganatha are won by the priests on the temple. So Santaha, the good people, not only get their heads adorned by the Padukas on their head, but also by the dust from the feet of the Lord Ranganatha. So Charanatrana Padapankaja Renava. So these two words, namely Sriranga Prithvija Charanatrana Shekharaha and Bhavanatrana Padapankaja Renavaha, qualifies, these two adjectives qualify the word Santa. So that is it. So then they are victorious. So Santaha Jain. The main sentence is Santaha Jain. So taking the last verse, namely Jayati Etiraja Sukti. Because even though Vedantadeshika did not see in person Ramanujacharya, because he was a predecessor, he lived earlier in the 10th century. He lived for 120 years. Vedantadeshika lived for 101 years. We have exact date of birth known, the birth star, the month and year are known. In both cases, the history is present. History is not absent. So Vedantadeshika was in 13th century, centuries later. He did not see Ramanujacharya, but he followed all the 9 works of Ramanujacharya meticulously. Therefore he says, Jayati Ramanuja Sukti. Jayati Yatiraja Sukti. Yatiraja, Yati, mendicant, sannyasi. Raja, king of the mendicants, namely monks, namely Ramanuja. So Jayati Yatiraja Sukti. Ramanuja has got different names in Tamil, Udayavar, Embermanar, then Tirupavai, Yatiraja, and so on. So Yatiraja is the name for Ramanujacharya. We celebrated recently the millennium.
Yes.
Then, so Jayati Yatiraja Sukti. Whenever we say victory to you, I say victory to you.
Victory to
you must be successful. Then I expect myself to be successful. So this is another way of not exact expectation in return. I praise you, you praise me, and so on. No, but this is normal expectation. But of course, Vedantadeshika doesn't expect anything in return as a gratitude to worship Ramanujacharya. So Jayati Yatiraja Suktihi, good statements. So that means there are no bad statements. So Suktihi is good statements. So all the statements are good. You have 9 works. So Sriranga Gadyam, Sri Vaikuntha Gadyam, Sri Sharanagati Gadyam, Vedanta Sangraha, Vedanta Deepam, Vedanta Saram, Sri Bhashyam, and Nitya Grantha. So these are the 9 works. So all the 9 works should be successful. That meaning everybody should read it. My book is successful means how can my book be successful? Unless people read, all people read. The whole world must read. So Jayati Yatiraja Sukti. Then the subject of the Padukasahasram is Mukunda Paduka Yugani. Jayati Mukundasya Paduka Yugani. The Padukasahasram also must be read to understand the greatness, and therefore Mukundasya of Sri Ranganatha, Pada Yugali, Pada foot, Yugali 2, the pair of feet. Jayati Mukundasya Paduka Yugali, Paduka Yugali. So the divine sandals, therefore when we understand the greatness of divine sandals, we also understand the greatness of the divine feet. This is vice versa also. When you understand the greatness of divine feet, you will also understand the greatness of the divine sandals. So, Jayati Mukundasya Paduka Yugali. Then, Tadubaya Dhanaha. Now, I said earlier that if Tamil scriptures and Sanskrit scriptures are understood, that means people who have wealth, that is, who are rich by knowing the 9 works of Sri Ramanujacharya, and the greatness of Paduka by reading Padukasahasram, then so Tadubhaidhanaha Avandhayantaha, they will be successful. So the word Jayanti is also there. So Vandhya meaning failure, Vandhyaha meaning failure, Avandhyaha meaning success. So Avandhayanto, they will make these 2 types of greatness, namely the works of Ramanujacharya and the greatness of the divine sandals, spread to all. Others will be made to understand because of these people who Santaha, good people. Jayanti Bhuvi Santaha. So in this world, these good people, namely the priests of the temple, should instruct all people to understand the greatness of both, namely the works of Ramanujacharya and the greatness of the divine sandals. Tadubaya Dhanaha, Ubaya meaning 2, Dhanam means money, as you know. So these people are rich. So Tadubaya Dhanaha, they are doubly rich. Tadubaya Dhanaha, Trivedi. So where is the richness? Trivedi, in all the 3 scriptures. Earlier, we were always talking about only 3 scriptures, Rig, Yajus, and Saman. These only. So Atharva came later. Atharva Veda came later, and therefore we consider whenever we say three, meaning only these three. So Trivedim, Avandhayanto. So all pramanas, authoritative statements of scriptures will be successful. Avandhayanto Jayanti Bhavisantaha. So people who are devotees will always spread the greatness of both the 9 works of Acharya, Ramanuja, the greatness of the divine sandals, and the authoritative statements of scriptures. So that's the meaning of good that you asked, so that people also will understand.
We are indebted to you for knowing from you, Prabhu. We are very, very thankful once again for giving this beautiful scripture to us.
Rajalakshmi's comment is very good. So, Madhuram Vakyam. Some people type in Sanskrit also. So somebody said I missed a lot. So okay. Very good that one says I am chanting Panchayida Stotram daily. Very good. So this should be the outcome of my presentation. Very nice to see. So who said, I think Jayanti Sridhar said, so I am chanting daily Panchayida Stotra. Very good. That will make our life excellent. Jayanti Sridhar, yes. So you can talk, I'll just, okay, you can, Jayanti Sridhar, yes. Please.
Namaste.
Namaste.
எனக்கு ரொம்ப லேட்டா தான் இந்த கிளாஸ் ஜாயின் பண்ண முடிஞ்சது. பட் ரெகுலரா நான் கேட்டுட்டு இருக்கேன். உங்களுடைய அந்த யூடியூப்ல வருதுன்னு சொன்னீங்க இல்லையா, அதை பார்த்து நான் கத்துக்க முயற்சி பண்றேன். அப்புறம் பஞ்சாயத்து சாஸ்திரம் டெய்லியுமே நான் இப்ப படிச்சுட்டு இருக்கேன். அது
வெரி குட், வெரி குட்.
தன்யவாதம் மகோதயா. ரொம்ப நல்லா எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்றீங்க. வேர்ட் பை வேர்ட், ஈச் வேர்டுக்கும் அந்த சந்தி பிரிச்சு அர்த்தம் பிரிச்சு எப்படி இந்த படிக்கணும் அப்படிங்கறதும் கத்து கொடுத்தீங்க. ரொம்ப ரொம்ப யூஸ்ஃபுல். ஏன்னா விஷ்ணு சஹஸ்ரநாமம் மத்ததெல்லாம் ஆடியோ நம்ம கேட்டு கேட்டு பழகிட்டோம். இது புதுசா இருக்கிறதுனால எனக்கு நீங்க பிரிச்சு சொல்லி கொடுக்க, நான் அட்டென்ட் பண்ணதுக்கு அப்புறம் நீங்க சொல்லி கொடுத்ததை வச்சு நான் அதை படிக்க நான் நல்லா கத்துக்கிட்டேன். அது இனி மத்ததும் அத ஃபர்ஸ்ட்ல இருந்து கத்துக்க நான் பாக்குறேன். ஏன்னா நான் செகண்ட் செஷன்ல இருந்து இப்ப ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிருந்தேன். உங்க கிளாஸ் ஜாயின் பண்ணேன் நானு. அந்த ஃபர்ஸ்ட் செஷனுக்கு நான் அதை அப்படி கத்துக்கிறேன். ரொம்ப 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 என்ன சொல்ற, நன்றிங்கிறது ரொம்ப இது என்ன சொல்ற, அதை விட மேல என்ன சொல்றது எனக்கு தெரியல. எனக்கு
ரொம்ப சந்தோஷம். நீங்க எல்லாருமே, நீங்க மட்டும் இல்ல, எல்லாருமே இந்த பாதுகாசாஸ்திரத்தை படிக்க ஆரம்பிச்சா நல்லது. அதான் நாம செய்யற கைங்கரியம், உதவி. என்னுடைய அப்பா தான் என்னை என்கரேஜ் பண்ணார். அதனால ஒரு 4 ராகத்துல இந்த ஒவ்வொரு 5 ஸ்லோகத்தையும் முதல் பத்ததியில பாடுறதுக்கு என்கரேஜ் பண்ணார். அதனால சந்த ஸ்ரீரங்க பிருத்வி சரணத்ராண சேகராஹா, இது பூபாலம். ஜெயந்தி புவனத்ராண பதபங்கஜரிணவா. அடுத்த 5வது ஸ்லோகம், 6வது அட்டானால தத்தே முகுந்தமணி பாதுகையோ நிவேஷாத் வல்மீக சம்பவகிரா சமதம் மமப்தி கங்கா பிரவாக பதிதஸ்ய கியா நிவஸ்யாத் தத்யோதகஸ்ய யமுனா சலிலாத் விசேஷக. இது அட்டானால 6வது ஸ்லோகம். அப்புறம் 11வது யதேஷத்தௌ மித்வாம் திரிகச்சரணத்ராயிணி ததோ மகிம்னः காஹானிஸ்தவ சம்பன்னிரவதிஹி சுனாலீடா காமம் பவது சுரசிந்துர்பகவதி ததேஷா கிம் பூதா சதுசபதி சந்தாபரஹிதः. எதுகுல காம்போதி லாஸ்ட் 5. அனிதம் மத்தியமாவதி. அனிதம் பிரதமஸ்ய சப்தராசேரபதம் ரங்கதுரீண பாதுகே த்வா Gatabhitirabhishtuvan vimohat parihasena vinodayami natham. இந்த மாதிரி 4 ராகத்துல பாடி ஒரு சும்மா ஒரு கத்துக்கணும்னா ராகத்தோட பாடணும், கத்துக்கணும், ராகத்தோட கத்துக்கணும். அதனால திருப்பாவையில சொன்னா ஆண்டாள் 13 தடவை பாடி 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 தான், வாயினால் பாடி. அதனால வாயால தானே பாட முடியும் அப்படின்னு சொன்னா வாயை திறந்து எல்லாருக்கும் கேட்கிற மாதிரி பாடணும்னு சொன்னோம். அதனால 30 திருப்பாவையும் பாடி நீங்க you can also watch your YouTube on my Tamil explanation of the 30 திருப்பாவைs by singing. அதனால அது வந்து அட்லீஸ்ட் 4 செஷன்ஸ் இருக்கு. 4 மார்கழி, 4 மார்கழி மாதம் இருக்கு. கோயம்புத்தூர், ஹோசூர், a village near Srirangam, namely Melanammangudichi, and then you have ஒரு பிரவச்சனம்.comனு ஒன்று தெலுங்கு பீப்புள் ஆரம்பிச்சிருக்கா. அது வந்து யூஎஸ்ல இருக்கு. அதுல வந்து இங்கிலீஷ்ல ஒவ்வொரு சாட்டர்டேயும் ஒரு 6 பாசுரம் அது யூடியூப்ல இருக்கு. அப்புறம் வந்து அது இங்கிலீஷ்ல. அதே மாதிரி இங்க திருச்சியில பிஹெச்எல்னு ஒரு ஃபேக்டரி இருக்கு, அங்க ஒரு கோவில்ல எப்படி ஒரு 4-5 செஷன்ஸ் இருக்கு, பார்க்கலாம் நீங்க. திருப்பாவை லிங்க் அப்புறம்
மகான் தன்யவாத.
ஸ்வாகதம், சுஸ்வாகதம்.
ஸ்ரீரங்கத்துல இருக்கீங்களா?
ஸ்ரீரங்கத்துல.
அப்படியா? சரி. அடுத்த தடவை வந்தபோது வரபோது உங்களை சந்திக்கிறேன்.
வாங்க வாங்க, சுஸ்வாகதம், மோஸ்ட் வெல்கம். ரொம்ப சந்தோஷம். அதாவது இதுல கத்தியத்திரயம்ல அந்த ஸ்ரீரங்க இதுல சரணாகதி கத்தியத்துல ராமானுஜாச்சாரியர் சொன்னார், ஸ்ரீரங்கே அத்திர ஸ்ரீரங்கே சுகம் ஆஸ்வ அப்படின்னா. பி இன் ஸ்ரீரங்கம், ஹாப்பி, பி ஹாப்பி இன் ஸ்ரீரங்கம். அத்திர ஹியர், ஸ்ரீரங்கே இன் ஸ்ரீரங்கம், சுகம் ஆஸ்வ, ஹாவ் a happy life. Thank you.
Dhanyawad.
So we will meet after preparation of the slides of Padukasahasram. Thank you so much. Let me stop sharing this slides and also. Let me wind up.